Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to also share, like, and comment.
And I want to welcome you all to this our afternoon press address as per tradition of the PF. I want to start by recognizing, our speakers that are going to lead this afternoon's discussion and address to the nation. As I call upon them one by one, we'll be introducing them. And welcome to you all, members of the press. And through you, members of the press, I want to welcome the whole nation to this address as we discuss current affairs affecting our country. My name is Hon Mundubile. I'm a member of Parliament from Fria Central constituency. So to start our address, I will call upon Honorable Hon Kampyongo. As we know him, needs very little introduction, and he's going to discuss a topic that is very dear, to his heart and also to his experience as the country remember him. So, Honorable Kampyongo, please welcome and you can address.
Thank you so much, Honorable Honorable Member of Parliament, on duty for this past week. I want to start by commending you for the diligent manner in which you have coordinated all of us in ensuring that we perform our parliamentary duties as patriotic fund elected members of the Parliament. So keep that spirit up, and we are looking forward to working with you in that arrangement. My comments today will be very brief, and it's basically to just continue expressing my disappointment and that of many Zambians in the way the new Lord government wants to treat the Zambia Police Service. I've always said that men and women in uniform in the Zambia Police Service are human beings who are prone to make mistakes, but that their ethics and code of conduct stipulates on how erring members of the Zambia Police Service must be treated. And so you have heard of late negative comments coming from the Inspector General of Police, who has opted to demonize his own men and women in uniform. And he has been referring to them as junkies. Now, it should be known to all that the protection of people's liberties is deposited in the men and women in uniform. Can you do it quickly so that we don't...
So that you appear on diamond, what is so I mean, what they do.
No, but he's doing his gadgets in front.
You have to go on your head.
Others are doing the filming.
Okay, you are allowed. You need to appear.
And so, we have cautioned the Inspector General of Police before regarding this matter, but he doesn't seem to understand, and he has continued to be excited in issuing politically motivated statements. Now, what he didn't know was how these negative sentiments were going to affect the Zambia Police Service. Today, Those of you who followed the Vice President's question time can understand my disappointment. I honor the Vice President of the Republic of Zambia, Madam Hon Mango, who at the same time is the second Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, joined in that same campaign to demonize the Zambia Police Service. We're still demonizing a Hon Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. She was responding to questions under a session. She referred to Hon Mundubile as Minister of Junkie Police. Now, that junkie police includes even the Inspector General of Police himself. And this is what we're avoiding when we cautioned him earlier on. So what do you expect from the members of the public? If you, the second Commander-in-Chief, can be the first one to demonize your own men and women who are actually responsible for your safety, even as you were coming out of Parliament, they are the ones that are responsible for your safety, and you refer to them as junkies, generally. What does it make you feel when you face them? So, our plea to the President, who is the Commander-in-Chief, is to ensure that he doesn't ignore this challenge that is unfolding. Those men and women in uniform are human beings, and they've got feelings. If indeed you want to deal with indiscipline in the Zambia Police Service, there are measures that can be taken, which includes in-service training for all men and women in uniform across all ranks. It should be a continuous process. So, the Commander-in-Chief, the President, must instruct his subordinates in government, including our Honor the Vice President, to desist from demonizing the Zambia Police Service, because you are leaving these men and women vulnerable to the public. It's unacceptable, and it should be stopped forthwith, because you don't have to look at what time someone was enrolled in the Zambia Police Service. Every successive government have a responsibility to ensure that the police recruitment informed by demographic factors, which ensures that there is a reasonable, acceptable police-public ratio according to the recommendations, is done. And we have told the Inspector General Musamba to stop being excited, or probably is still robbed out because he has been out of employment for more than 10 years. He is supposed to realign himself first and foremost to the current trends of police. Dust yourself up. So finally, is to appeal to the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, who was referred today, who the Vice President, Republican Vice President, referred to as Minister of Junkie Police, to protect your men and women in uniform. It's your duty, it's your responsibility. Because if you damage the morale of those officers, they will let you down when you need them most. And it won't be the desirable thing for the people of Zambia. It won't take the Inspector General to go on the streets and corners of this country to make sure that people are safe. So, I thought I would make my comments on that and make it known that the PF government did not oversee the recruitment of junkies. It oversaw the recruitment of Zambians who qualified to be recruited. The UPND, under their tenure, they will recruit officers. So if they are going to be in office for 5 years, those who will be recruited in the 5 years, someone excited as Mr. Musamba becomes an Inspector General of Police, should come and punish the officers who are being recruited now as having been recruited because of UPNG. Let me tell you that there shall be always a relationship between those that have served in the Zambia Police Service and in retirement and those that have remained. There shall be mutual respect, and that goes for those that have served even as ministers in that ministry. That doesn't mean familiarity at all, because any professional police officer should know how to serve the government of the day. And serving of the government of the day does not entail someone should become a political cadre of the ruling party at that particular time.
As Musamba is doing.
But you can see that from the way Mr. Musamba is conducting himself, he could have been probably a party cadre. All this time he has been in recruitment. He has to shelve off that if he wants to continue serving in the Zambia Police. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The message is very clear on behalf of the Zambians. Thank you very much, Hon Kampyongo. Our next speaker is a very senior member of the party, Honorable Sonda Pankata, a member of Parliament for Social Constituency. Honorable Pankata.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Recently, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia declared that we've got a drought. It's a disaster. We in PF, when we were put out of government, we had enough maize stocks or reserves that could last us for the next 3 to 4 years in case there's a drought like this one. But the current government, in their own wisdom, decided to export all the maize. And we raised this alarm. We were condemned on the floor of the house. We are condemned everywhere. No, these guys, they don't know what they are doing. No, we sold the maize because we want to pay the farmers. Yes, the maize was sold, exported. But today, we are now exporting, we are now importing millennium from South Africa, and which is GMO. And our women are made to queue for that millennium. It's unfortunate that I've left the pictures. In Ikapiri, there was a picture. There was a video that was being shown where women are queuing up for millennium. When did we last see such queues in Zambia? That was about 40 years ago in the Kaunda days. Today it is back with the Champion League leaders that are managing the affairs of this country. So are we now going to subject our women to be queuing for maize everywhere where they hear there's cheap millennium? Is it ShopRite in Luposochi? If we have a ShopRite, we don't have a ShopRite in Luposochi. If you hear there's millennium in China, women have to wake up as early as 04 to go and buy cheap millennium at 230. This is very unfortunate. Is this the way you're going to handle the drought, Mr. President? And we heard on the floor of the House this morning that there is community sales of maize in Pemba constituency in Southern Province. Why only in Southern Province? Why only in Southern Province that you are providing community sales of maize at a cheaper price? The people in Nawari are dying of hunger. People in Chama who live in the game park, they are dying. They also need the maize. People in Northwestern, they need those community sales. Why only subjected to Southern Province? In Rwanda, they still need the maize. They still need the cheaper maize supplied by the government. But yet it is only in Southern Province. Is this the way we're going to run this country? Everything has to be regional. No, this is uncalled for. This is one Zambia, one nation. Whatever you are providing to the people of Southern Province, provide it to every corner of Zambia. Every Zambian pays taxes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Short and clear. The message is very clear. Our next speaker is the Honorable Member for Kawambwa Central Constituency, Honorable Nixon Chai.
Colleagues, welcome. First and foremost, I would like to address the general membership of the PF. That PF is still PF. All our members of the Patriotic Front should continue mobilizing our members under the umbrella of the PF. Yes, there is an alliance called UCA. The modalities and how UCA is going to perform and how it's going to work is yet to be agreed upon. When we agree on the modus operandi for UCA, we shall inform our members. But for now, we are PF, we are Patriotic Front, and all our members must not make a mistake. They must continue working and mobilizing the Patriotic Front, because that is the legitimate organization that they belong to. That is the legitimate organization that we sitting here as members of parliament and those of our colleagues who are not here, we belong to. So that must be noted, and must be noted very, very clearly, because there has been this confusion where some people want to say, are we all joining UCA? No, no. UCA is just an umbrella under which a number of it's a platform under which a number of political organizations are going to push common agendas together. That's what it is all about. Last week, colleagues, you are aware that President Hakainde Hichilema came to the House to talk about progress made in national building through the ethics, constitutionalism, and all the rest of it that they spoke about. For me, I feel the President lost an opportunity once again to build Zambia, to once again ensure that we continue bringing Zambians from across the width and breadth of Zambia together, to build bridges. When you talk about ethics, morality, constitutionalism, how come the President did not speak to the fact that what has been happening in the Patriotic Front is regrettable, and him as head of state can prevail and ensuring that all the illegal things which have gone on, which have happened, can come to an end. Colleagues, make no mistake, time is coming, and time is coming very fast. There are 2.5 years in government, actually above, and they are thinking in their minds that they've got another 2.5 years to go. No, sir, no, ladies. There is no such thing as 5 years in the political cycle. The UPND have got only 1 year. And if they don't put their act together, which I doubt, because they have no capacity, they have no depth, what the Zambians are saying across the entire breadth and width of this country will come to pass, which is that UPND will be the first party to rule this country for a single term, and they will be gone. Colleagues, those of you who are students of history might understand that President Richard Nixon of the United States of America was forced to resign on the 8th of August 1974 because of the events of what was called the Watergate scandal. The bagging and the breaking into the democratic offices at the Watergate Hotel and Complex in 1972. They kept on diving and hiding and so on. 5 of those who were arrested to have been involved in the Watergate scandal were very close to the state system. Time is coming when Zambians are going to know the truth about who has been behind the Mausa nonsense, who has been financing him, who gave him the police. Colleagues, in a normal society, that would call for the resignation. Just like President Richard Nixon resigned. We were looking forward to President Hakainde Hichilema to distance himself as he was talking about morality and ethics on Friday last week. That's what morality entails. As he was speaking about morality, he should have not gone to the extent of saying, now we can campaign freely, and he was even citing issues of Shiwangandu. Why did he forget to talk about the death of Kungo? Who killed Kungo? Jackson Kungo in Northwestern Province. Why are they so quiet about it? Why have they not condemned it? Those who come to equity needs to come with clean hands. We had by-elections in the Mwense District Council when the vehicle belonging to Honorable James Senga had its windscreen bashed, people beaten at the police station, and those who were beaten were PF. They were beaten by the UPND. We had a by-election in Kushi, and you know what happened in Kushi? We were beaten. Those who went to the police station, they were followed and they were beaten by the UPND. And lo and behold, they want to come here and tell them that there's peace in Zambia. We know what happened in Serenge during the council by-election. When the president member of the Socialist Party was locked in. When the people committed the atrocities were the UPND cadres. And we want to come here today. There was a by-election in Mwansamongo in Fugu Ward when our provincial chairman's vehicle had its tires deflated by the UPND. And then they want to go and stand in front of the whole world and claim to have brought peace and claim that things are being done better. And the biggest instigators of violence in Zambian political history has been the UPND. When the president came this time around to Parliament, I expected him to denounce the Mapatizia formula. Because the Mapatizia formula by the UPND has been their blueprint for violence during elections. And it's so clear. So we expected the president to deal with these things. Why is he failing to do that? Colleagues, truth must be truth, no matter who says it, no matter where it is. These are things that we see every day. How can they talk about constitutionalism when PF has not been allowed to file nomination papers for our candidates in the recent by-elections? How can the president be proud to even say, now we have brought peace, now there's constitutionalism in Zambia? Did we ever bar them when PF was in government? Did we ever defranchise them? Did PF ever make any funny rules? No, we didn't, colleagues. These are things we must be interrogating. Those who come to equity must come with clean hands. So for me and the colleagues in the Patriotic Front, we are appealing to President Hakainde to reflect and talk to his conscience as he do all these things. We appeal to him on this thing. There comes a time in life when a man has got to do what he's got to do. And we think time has come for President Hakainde. Zambians are too intelligent. If they want to silence everybody from talking, be it inside or outside Parliament, so be it. But Zambians, the time of reckoning is coming. Colleagues, we don't say these things because we hate President Hakainde Hichilema. No. Nobody, none of us in Patriotic Front hate President Hakainde Hichilema. We actually wished him well. And we recognized him when he won the presidency. Unlike them, what we don't like is his behavior and his conduct. That's what we don't like. So for us, we are saying, sir, you are going the wrong direction. The right route to go and take the country, the path we must follow is this route. That's what we are telling him. Colleagues, this is a constitutional democracy. And constitutional democracy allows us to meet in the manner we are meeting here, to allow our people to mobilize our party, to allow other political parties to meet and mobilize. That's what it is. It's not up to President Hakainde Hichilema or the UPND to decide who and where we must meet. It's not about the Inspector General of Police who must decide when and where we must meet. It's our inbuilt right and freedom. The Zambian freedoms and democratic credentials have gone down. And at the rate we are going, they'll collapse. How do we even celebrate it? You know, we've won so many by-elections. We've stopped the by-elections. Even if you are not, how can you go with the football in front of, in the center of a football pitch? Without your opponent and you start clapping yourself at English. Usually mutuntulu. Utuntulu ishwile kwisa. Utuntulu wile kwisa. Where is that human conscience? Where has it gone to? We shall not allow PF to file nominations through ECZ. And you win an election where we had no serious challenger, and you start clapping for yourselves that we are the champions. Wisa? How? Who thinks like that? So you colleagues in the media have got a duty. And for your own information, this is not about PF. It's about Zambians. It's about your country. It's about all of us. We should not allow the UPN to continue mutilating the constitution, to continue making electoral rules in the middle of the night, which favors only the UPND. That will be unacceptable. All of us, if we allow UPND to continue doing this, I can tell you what will happen. Help for Zambians will come from somewhere. All of you have been appointed for a time like this. All of us have been appointed for a time like this, like it is written in Esther chapter 4, verse 14. That we were appointed for a time like this to save the Zambians. And if we fail, help for the Zambians will come from elsewhere. And all of us will perish. Collectively. So I'm imploring you, colleagues from the media, that we need to step up in our checks and balances. Because unless the UPND live in a different country, for them they're doing extremely well. They're even clapping for themselves. Everything's moving so smoothly. Everybody is happy with them. The economy for them is great. Things are looking positive. Are you sure? Things are looking positive? President Hakainde Hichilema, Madam Vice President, are things okay? Are you sure, Honorable Ministers, as you speak on the floor of the House and from your ministry, that all is well? Are you sure all is well? Are you being honest with yourselves? Are you talking to yourselves? You are talking to Zambians? Are you living in a different country like the rest of us? The President must apologize to the Zambians. Sorry, Zambians, I lied that I'll give you minimum for 50 kwacha. Sorry, Zambians, I apologize that I said I'll bring down the cost of fuel to below 13 kwacha. Sorry, Zambians, I lied that I will be able to bring down the exchange rate. Sorry, Zambians, I lied that the cost of living, the standard of living was going to come down under my watch. That's the beginning. For all of you who are believers, you know that there is no forgiveness of sin without confession. There's no forgiveness of sin without confession. Confession is the first step. So the UPND must start preparing now to start confessing to the Zambians, because Zambians' patience is running out, and it's running out very, very fast. So me being a good citizen that I am, being a good person that I am, I'm just reminding them. I'm just reminding them of their responsibilities and what they should do. They cannot talk about living standards for our officers, for the civil servants, when they've not. Did you see what Michael Sata did when he came into government? He found money to increase the wages for all civil servants. And when he did that, the excess money that they earned permitted to everywhere. The only president I remember in the history of this country who promised Zambians to tighten their belts and not to expect much because the economy was bad was President FTJ. Those who remember. Frederick Chuba was asking us on podium, those who attended the rallies. He said, Zambians, are you ready for change? And we said, yes. Are you ready for sacrificing? And we said, are you ready to tighten your belts? And Zambians were saying, yes, yes, FTJ, yes, yes, yes. And when we came into government, we never expected much. As for this one, President Cheche, he said everything was going to be heaven on earth. And we are making him accountable that he must deliver the heaven on earth. He said he had solutions. He knew we had the debt. So this is story of talking about, you know, they borrowed, they left money, they saw. Yes, we borrowed. We found the debt about 4 billion. And we pushed it to about 12 billion. It meant that in the 10 years of our tenure, we borrowed 8 billion. Can we show where the 8 billion went? Yes, we can, colleagues. You can go to Lusaka Airport, you see the international airport. You can go to Ndola Airport, you see the airport. You can, Lusaka here, congestion. Where would Lusaka be today if we don't build all these roads? Kazungula Bridge, which they were clapping for, that is a masterpiece. Who built it? Who borrowed the money? The PF did. Yes, they found the contract for Kalabo Road had been signed, but we mobilized the money to do that project. It is the PF. Communication towers, when we came into government, there were very few communication towers, especially in rural areas. Now they are widespread because we borrowed money to do that. Clinics, hospitals, 650 health posts we built with borrowed money. Yes, we borrowed, and we can show what we did with that money. The Kafue Lower Hydropower Station, it was us, the PF, who built that. And CDF was 100.6. We did what we could do for the sake of Zambia, because we had to open up Zambia. And this notion, when you go on a road which is bad to say, PF said they built roads and they didn't build this particular road. It is not possible that we could have done all the roads in Zambia. The $8 billion we borrowed was not enough for us to do all the roads. For this country to do all the road infrastructure to acceptable levels, we need about $20 billion. That's what we need to do. President Akainde said he's got global connections. He was going to bring $26 billion once he got into office. I'm here to see part of that money. I've not seen anything. So I'm saying PF performed, we delivered on our promises, and when we were leaving government, we left Zambia self-sufficient in food. Because that's what we did. That's what we were meant for. Money was in circulation because of the programs and projects that we are going on. So for me, I stand here to say, Zambians, you can now compare. Has UPND borrowed any money? By the way, President Akainde said he was not going to borrow any money. He had all these funny theories of moratorium on debt, and he had all these theories. You know, you remember Honorable Gary Nkombo at one stage, he even stood on the floor of the house and said, we shall bring water from Chembe River, like there's Chembe River anywhere, and bring it to Kafue, and there will be no problem with electricity whatsoever. I have no clue where Chembe River is.
You need global connections to know what's happening.
That comes when you have global connections. So we are looking forward to these guys who have got global connections, which we didn't have. Can you imagine? Colleagues with global connection have been struggling to get 1.3 billion from IMF. Been struggling. As without global connections, we borrowed and got money. The Eurobond, we got money from everywhere. And there are good causes why you got that money.
The IMF is teasing us now.
And the IMF was telling the Ghanaians, actually, Ghanaians don't be as useless as Zambia. You saw that clip? Eh? The people of global connections have failed to pen in a deal. Me, when I was Prime Minister, I had pledges of investment in excess of $5 billion. This government, 2 years down the road, and I managed to do that in less than 1 year. This government, with people with global connections, cannot even bring 1.3 billion. I hear they sold Mupani for $130 million. How can you celebrate selling Mupani for $130 million? How? What thinking is that? Are we okay?
Even a footballer is more expensive.
No, colleagues.
Than a mine.
So, colleagues, I'll end there because I can take the whole day I'm just doing this to remind you and the Zambians who are out there listening to us to say, colleagues, they failed. UPND are a failed project. They are a terribly failed project. And it's a shame that some people are even saying, let's give them a chance. Give them a chance for what? Are you sure?
For more global connection.
Colleagues, the success of a president is how they raise the living standards of the poorest of the poor. Are the poorest of the poor's living standards being raised? Everything else is CDF. CDF is a mirage. CDF is not what it seems to be. They stole about 30 million CDF. Money has been taken away from certain sectors, brought into CDF, and it's been retrenched. As we speak today, there is no single MP who has got all projects under WDCs being taken care of. Because the money that they give with one hand, under the pretext that they are giving you, and they take away with one hand. No, the CDF will send you 5 million must be for bursaries, 5 million must be for skills, 2.7 must be for refuse trucks. How can you buy a refuse truck for Lunga? How? How can you buy a refuse truck for Lunte? From Porogosi? You know, sitting in an office on Cairo Road and you are giving directions is a tragedy. It's a tragedy. That's what people with global connections can do. No, go and buy a motorbike at 110,000. They've written, buy motorbikes. Each one of you must buy a motorbike from CDF at 110,000 and give them to chief's retainers. So even in Kawata, there's a chief retainer. Even in Uzakira, there's a chief retainer. So, colleagues, there are these things we must be interrogating on a daily basis. Because and the problem with lies, once you tell a lie today, you must tell more lies to cover the first lie. If you tell 2 lies, you must tell 4 lies to cover the first lies. So, and it's perpetual. Oh my God, where are we going as a country? And the church and the civil society, they've done their part. But all of us must do our part. We must stand up and sound them out. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, the next speaker is the Honorable Member of Parliament, Honorable Mtateka.
Thank you so much. my brother, as I thank you, allow me to recognize the leadership which is here, and also our friends from India. I think I don't have much to say, except to say that I was motivated or inspired by my own brother, Hon Kampyongo, this afternoon, when he debated the motion to suspend standing orders in order for the assembly to sit from 9 hours up to the time it concludes business every day for next week up to Thursday. Honorable Kampyongo in his discourse lamented the contradictory statements that come from government, and specifically he talked about our food security situation, where, as we all know, the president declared the current droughts as both an emergency and a national disaster. Consequently, he is all over the place asking or begging for support from the international community and even from the local community. But the Minister of Information went all over as well to tell the Zambian people that, in fact, we are food secure. So that inspired me, because like Honorable Kampyongo this morning actually, I think as leaders we can't contradict each other in that fashion. It's very unfortunate. So I just want to say I'm sorry to UPND for that contradiction. It's really shameful to observe a contradiction of such a basic concept at that high level. But my big man, another one here, was just talking about Ufi and so on, and he takes us back to Unga 50 kwacha, and you can say a lot of things, including fertilizer. You can remember the 250 kwacha and so on. One would be tempted to think that once elections are over, you reflect and you tell the people, okay, now feel what? That's why Mwena Zambia Bunga no Bamakola Shitra pali 420 It's okay to say that. But this is where we are being told, no, PF Marifilona debt restructuring, Mwakongore Mwafrana debt restructuring. If we have managed debt restructuring, this road, this airport road, full of cadres from Monza, who were transported from Monza to come and celebrate debt restructuring. But debt restructuring up to now, from that day, the cadres were transported for the purpose of celebrating nothing. So instead of just being civil, the president no, now it's a done deal, because China, now India, who were remaining, now endorse. A day later, the same president tells us, no, resolve the standoff. No, but contradiction, okay, the minister will never tell you, not within 1 week. No, now this kind of thing is causing us pain. It is causing us pain. And if the UPND are not saying this, if we follow what the president says, we follow what ministers say, this is why we can come here and say, Chachilamo, on your behalf, we are now apologizing to the UPND members who can't hear these things. Sorry, today in Sevanya, the UPND, your leaders are embarrassing you. And you see, now when you go on radio to talk about these matters of national significance, you find that those very well-known press singers can't even go in. You know, leaders may not have a conscience, but our supporters will have a conscience. They have a conscience. So Muleva Nasha, Chefi and Koba UPN leadership. Chefi and Koba become consistent, become sober. I think close to 3 years after you ascended to power. It's long enough to sober up and settle and begin to tell the nation things that are feasible. Of course, what has happened. We know everything, and in the due course, appropriate actions will be taken. For now, we can just tell you that all these things will really end in tears. Because no one can accept that. I can't believe that. I have to see with my own eyes. You went to the yes, I mean.
Investors who can be brought in our own plane.
Not totally.
Thank you very much, Next we hear from Senior Council Member of Parliament, Kasha.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I also just want to ride on the same protocol that have been already identified. I'd like to very briefly also share my thoughts on the topics that we're discussing today. But allow me, either question, to start on the note that the Secretary General also mentioned. He expressed the view that perhaps we, the members of Patriotic Front, members of Parliament of Patriotic Front, we probably love and value this president more than the people that sit on the right in that assembly. Because time and again, the inconsistencies that are coming out of the people that are sitting on the right and even from the office of the president are such that we find it obliging to stand up and correct those inconsistencies and correct those falsehoods. So I want to just echo what the Secretary General said, that maybe the president must begin to interrogate who genuinely loves him and who genuinely would like him to succeed. Leader of question, allow me to start by pointing out the importance of the oath that we take when we are elected or the first time we step in the House. I have repeatedly said that we take 2 oaths, but today I want to focus on one oath because I would like to make a statement on behalf of Jeannie and Senga, the MP who is now listed for reference to the Ethics Committee for what she did. When we are elected into Parliament, we take a solemn oath. It's a very emotional oath because we swear that we are going to owe our allegiance to the Republican President, to the person for the time being, who occupies the office of the President. That oath necessarily means that we are going to show our respect to the President. And by extension, we are going to conduct our affairs in such a way that if we think the President has faulted, or if we think the President has made a mistake, we will stand up and we will speak truth to the President. That is the responsibility of the oath. I've said this on TV many times to emphasize how important we as members of Patriotic Front consider the oaths that we've taken. When the President was in the House, all the members of Parliament that were in the House, inclusive, they kept quiet, they paid attention to what the President was saying, in accordance with the standing orders that require that we allow the President to speak. Of course, we made a few remarks here and there for things that we didn't approve. But what Honorable Jean Chisenga did was only to remind the President that it appears that most of the promises that he had given when he was in the opposition, he has departed from those promises. She was trying to remind the President, in keeping with the oath that she has taken, to respect the president, but also to point out flaws when she thinks that something has gone wrong. Unfortunately, those that operate an orchestra with the umpires of the House found themselves duty-bound to suggest that what Jean did was gross misconduct, which in fact was not, because the public has already passed an opinion on this. What Jean did was not wrong. She only pointed out to the president the fact that most of what he said turns out to sound like they were lies, because what he promised and what he's obtaining currently are two contradictions. With that said, I would like to make a clarion call to two sections of our society. Firstly, to the women folk, because Jean is a lady, and she's being vilified for standing up on what was right. I would like to make a clarion call to the women folk in this country, especially women leaders in this country, to stand firm behind this young lady and protect her from the victimization that she's already started undergoing because of what she has said. Women are always considered the weaker party, in terms of political interrelationships. But if the women can stand up for Jean, then even those who would like to victimize Jean will sit stiff on their chairs and they will not continue this victimization. I want to call out what Laura Mittis did this morning. At least she stood for Jean, which is very strange in my assessment. But I think she noticed that there's something wrong with what the umpires of this parliament would like to do to this young lady, and she found herself duty-bound to protect Jean. I would like women to follow suit with what Laura Mittis has done today. I take my hat off to Laura Mittis. But I would also like to call upon the youths of Zambia. Jean is a youth. You see, Parliament is a convergence of different types of people. We have youths in Parliament, we have adults in Parliament, we have women in Parliament, we have educated people in Parliament, we have people who are liberally educated in Parliament. It's the collection of different kinds of competencies, that bring together the House into activity. If any of us begins to become victimized for standing up for what is right, then the integrity of this House becomes affected negatively. And this is why it is very important for people that it concerns, and I think it concerns the whole nation, to stand up for this young lady. Those who have been watching the Parliament for the last 10 years plus, presidents have come to this House and have delivered speeches. Some of them have been heckled in worse circumstances than what Jean did. In fact, Jean did not even heckle President Hakainde. They had a conversation. She was speaking the truth to him. We have had instances in this House where MPs have torn speeches that have been read out by the president in debating those speeches, and consequences have not followed. Why they are trying to do this is basically to intimidate this young lady. But I want to make a call to the Zambians. This young lady needs your protection. But I also would like to call on those that are thinking they can continue victimizing this young girl, that they're not actually fighting an individual. They are fighting Zambians, because the opinion that Jean was expressing in the House is an opinion that has been formed by many Zambians about the leadership of the UPND. It is now being questioned on whether what they promised and what they are doing are interrelated, because people are going hungry, which is the truth. Fuel prices are going high, which is the truth. Staple foods prices are going high, which is the truth. Our international relationships are becoming questionable, which is the truth. There's everything that you can talk about that shows that this country is on the wrong path. Now, instead of vilifying a young girl like Jean, what I expected somebody should have done is maybe to organize a one-on-one meeting between Jean and the president, to give Jean the opportunity to go and speak truth to power and say, sir, but you had promised these things. What you are doing now is different from what you had promised. But to try and punish her because of what she did is to cause intimidation on all members of Parliament, so that we don't question what we think is right for us to question. But we remain resolved. We have embraced Jean, we have spoken to her, we have reassured her that the Patriotic Front members of Parliament in the House are going to stand firm with her, even as she goes through this most trying moment of her political career. She has a long career to go. We're supposed to be building such MPs, not destroying them, when they just enter the House. The second thing I want to mention, a leader of opposition, is to ask our colleague from the press to take a keen interest with what is happening at ECZ. You heard recently that ECZ had announced a cancellation of the tender for production of electoral materials. You know, these election materials are basically ballot papers, ballot paper posters, blind voter templates, and announcement forms, which they had put out a tender in November 2023. Without giving any reason, they've decided to terminate this tender and justify it in a way that is not very convincing. My concern with this is that it's now becoming a trend that contracting agencies of the government, under the leadership of the UPND, have gone into a tendency of putting out tenders fictitiously without an intention to contract on those tenders. This is a trend you have seen in the procurement of fertilizer, in the procurement of petroleum. Now it's extended to procurement of electoral material. This is crucial because we are preparing for a very crucial election in 2026. We can't allow the SZ to be toiling with the Zambian people by putting out tenders without an intention to contract. What they are trying to do is to create a semblance of a tender process, which they then justifiably, in their assessment, cancel to justify single sourcing. Now, single sourcing is very dangerous when you're dealing with public procurement, especially of an electoral nature. Who are they going to pick as a contractor? Of course, they're going to pick somebody who is user-friendly to them. That's the first step of preparing to rig an election in 2026. So you, from the press, are supposed to take a keen interest in this and find out why are they in the tendency of putting out tenders and then cancelling them in preference for single sourcing. We have already suffered the consequences of single sourcing. If you've seen our fertilizer, our FISIP program, it is in shambles. Year in, year out, we have a very poor FISIP program because of single sourcing. And they're doing it because they're giving business to their friends. Zambians must begin to hold this government to account on the many things that they're doing, which we are seeing are going wrong. I have a very brief remark to make about what is happening in the House today. This is a legislative process. We are supposed to be sitting in Parliament mainly to pass laws in this session. And we will be closing Parliament on Thursday next week because Friday is a holiday. The major business of this session should have been enactment of laws, legislation. That means we should have devoted more time to passing legislation, interrogating bills, examining them, debating them on the floor of the House, and proposing amendment that we think fit in passing those laws. Unfortunately, what we have been treated to is what happened even in the last year's Parliament, where towards the end of the session, that's when government decides to introduce bills. We have now been lumbered with 4 bills that we are supposed to be considering in the shortest possible time, in the 1 week that has remained for Parliament. These bills include the Animal Identification and Traceability Bill, the Investment, Trade and Business Development Bill, the Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill, and a very crucial bill called the Minerals Regulation Bill. Now, members of Parliament are not experts for themselves. When we go into the legislative process, what is expected is that we're supposed to be given adequate time to review these bills. And if these bills relate to certain stakeholder sections of society, we're supposed to be given even the opportunity to go and consult, stakeholder consultation with those sections of society. For instance, if you're going to be talking about a bill as big as this one, it's a Mineral Regulation Commission which they want to introduce in a mineral regulation. We have always argued that our minerals and mineral development is a heartbeat of the Zambian economy. Such an initiative is supposed to receive, input from various stakeholders. To try and introduce a bill like this for second reading in the last week of the session is actually to do injustice not only to the statute itself, but also to those who you call upon to participate in the legislative process, being the opposition members of Parliament. By extension, other stakeholders are going to be affected by this bill, because this bill is going to affect how we do our mining and mineral development in the nation. But the UPND has this tendency of reducing the scope of scrutiny that we're supposed to undertake in passing legislation. They do it in the very subtle way. The first thing they do is they weaken the subcommittees that are responsible for vetting these bills before they come to the floor of the House. We complained here before about what changes they had made to the existing committees that are supposed to scrutinize these bills before presenting them on the floor of the House. As if that is not enough, they have now got a tendency of introducing these bills towards the tail end of a sitting in Parliament. We only have 3 days. I don't know how much time we're going to have, speaking for myself and speaking for other members of Parliament, how much time we're going to have to consult on this kind of legislation. This is why Zambians begin to judge, members of Parliament harshly by saying, oh, they don't even pay attention when they're passing laws. They just go and say, yeah. We are not supposed to be doing this, legislation in this fashion. I would like to make a call on the Minister of Justice and by extension on the Vice President as the leader of the government business in the House. We need to be given adequate time when we're dealing with the business of passing legislation in Parliament. I hope that this is the last time we're going to go through this experience, and I hope that the UPND in future will mean well by ensuring that they bring these bills in good time for us not only to scrutinize it, but where it's demanded, we go and speak to stakeholders who can also have an input into these bills before we bring them to the floor of the House for debate. Thank you very much, Chair, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. Thank you very much.
Members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I now call upon Honorable Hon Mundubile to address us.
Thank you, Honorable Mwila, for the work that you've done for us in Parliament this past week, MP in charge. May I also hasten to recognize the presence of our party chairperson, Honorable Msonda Mpankata. I also wish to recognize the presence of our Deputy SG, Honorable Nixon Chilangwa, members of Central Committee, that includes Chairman Legal, the Whip in the House, Honorable Kampyongo, and MCC Ikafwaya. Honorable Kalalo Mukosa, MP for Chinsali, I also recognize you. Members of the press. Thank you very much, colleagues. I want to agree with my colleagues that have spoken earlier on a number of topics. Speaking on my own behalf, in my capacity as leader of opposition, and indeed on behalf of other honourable members of Parliament, I wish to raise concerns in the manner that the UPND government continues to violate constitutional provisions. Yesterday, there was a handover of Mupani to the so-called new investors. When you look at our Constitution, and specifically at Article 210(2) of the Constitution, it states that a major asset shall be sold, transferred, or otherwise disposed of as prescribed, subject to the approval of the National Assembly, signified by a vote of at least 2/3 of members of Parliament. 3 goes on to say, for the purposes of this article, major asset includes a parastatal and equity held by government as prescribed. So colleagues, Zambians across the country are raising concern. It's not the first asset that has been transferred without being brought before the floor of the House. We are concerned as members of Parliament that the lack of transparency in the UPND government is beginning to be the order of the day. This has raised a number of concerns. I want to go further, connect and also agree with State Counsel Musa Mwenye, who is now saying there must be penal sanctions or loss of office for failure to declare assets. This is very serious because on one hand, we have a government or leaders who have waged war against corruption. The same leaders do not want to declare their assets. So it becomes very difficult. And it's not enough for our leaders to give excuses that there is no law that compels them. I think they have a moral obligation. If indeed they are serious about the fight against corruption, they themselves must come forth first and say, here is where I am. This is what I've worked for before I assumed office. And then we will respect their resolve to fight corruption. Countrymen and women, we have our brothers and sisters who are in court right now as accused persons for merely owning houses, brick and mortar. But today, we have our leaders that are looting our minds. Leaders who are bringing in friends and handing over state assets free of charge, using Imingalato. And they are walking the streets of Zambia. I'll repeat. If you go to a magistrate complex today, our brothers are in and out of those courts for merely having built a house using brick and mortar. And today they are accused of suspected proceeds of crime. But the real criminals are sitting in government today. They go behind, they make shadow companies with friends, come and loot our mines. There's a golden thread that runs through the illegal mining activities that were flagged off on the floor of the House when members of Parliament went to KCM and found some mining operation in KCM, Port Sensele mining. At that point, the ownership of that company and that mining operation could not be ascertained. If today you look at what is happening at Mopani, you begin to draw a golden thread. There's a connection, there's a nexus between those individuals who were mining there and those who are now the owners of the new mine. So, countrymen and women, if indeed our president is serious in the fight against corruption, we want to know how much he is worth. How much he was worth as at September 2021 and how much he's worth now. There are speculations. You can't stop these speculations. As long as the president will not come clean, he will not come to equity with clean hands, because equity is equity. These speculations will continue. I want to commend State Counsel Musa Mweni, old friend of mine, for having come out openly to state that there must be penal sanctions. Indeed, there should be, because it's a mockery. How is it that those that are looting mines, using friends, are walking free, and they're the same ones behind the scheme of locking up people who are merely owning houses? So, the countrymen and women, it's time that we take interest, especially in the happenings at Mopani. My colleague here, Honorable Kafuaya, had once raised concerns. When the announcement was made that there would be new owners at Mopani, we were told about the intended investment in terms of funds. There was no mention of the consideration that the Zambians will get in exchange with that asset. The people that were crafting the statement simply said they will invest up to $1.5 billion, $1.1 billion, meaning they can invest anything, 100 million, 130 million, and so on. We were interested to know. Now, there are figures that are flying in the air all over to confuse the masses. All we needed was President Hakainde Hichilema to come to Minister of Finance or Minister of Mines to come on the floor of the House with a very serious statement. First of all, to announce the transaction, and secondly, come to Parliament to seek approval for that particular transaction. The Zambian people would have had an opportunity to learn more about this transaction. The lack of transparency in the Mopani deal is by design, because the owners, the real owners of that mine, will soon be known. Our worry is that because of lack of transparency in that transaction, the operations will be shrouded in secrecy. And as a result of that, we may start facing challenges not very long from now. because there has not been full disclosure regarding this particular transaction. So our concern as members of parliament has been the violation of our constitution at Article 210(2) by the UPND government in this transaction that involves Mopani copper mine. My colleagues earlier commented on the presidential speech. Yes, and again, the MPs addressed concerns even before the president made that speech, and particularly on democracy and constitutionalism. His Excellency the President Hakainde Hichilema struggled on the floor of the House to talk about democracy and constitutionalism. In the face of the Bowman, Lusambo and John Malange's issue with ECZ, I did not expect the President to say much on democracy and constitutionalism. If you talk about the detentions of innocent citizens, people are being sent to jail merely for expressing themselves, exercising rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, fundamental rights that should be protected, and an individual is sent to jail. We have other people, friends of the UPND, making similar statements, and DPP takes the liberties, to deny private prosecution. Yet the poor people that were merely expressing themselves because they've lost their jobs, they are hungry, and they express themselves on these hardships, they are sent to jail. We have a brother of ours who lives in Lusaka, and he was called to Kalomo or somewhere, and he's been sentenced to 12 months imprisonment. Yet the SG for the UPND, who had made even worse of statements against the clergy, is let free, and he's roaming the streets of Lusaka. So I didn't expect the president to come out strongly on the issue of democracy and constitutionalism. Countrymen and women, there is a difference between a constitution and constitutionalism. Yes, in Zambia we have a constitution. What we do not have is constitutionalism. And the difference is, constitutionalism is a culture and commitment to implement the provisions of the Constitution. So on one hand, we've got a document, we've got a constitution, but the commitment and culture to implement what is in our constitution is what is lacking. And this indeed is the problem that we face today as a country. When you look at constitutionalism, you go in the region, look at how far Kenya has gone, look at how far South Africa has gone. But by introducing constitutional courts as apex courts in constitutional matters, these two countries have been able to advance their constitutionalism to another level. And they've only been able to do that because the courts have had to up their game. The courts that act as midwives in this particular journey of ensuring that societal demands and needs are implemented using constitutional provisions. It's therefore an encouragement and a call on our judiciary to ensure that they abandon their comfort zones, the traditional courts, and rise to the occasion and ensure that the constitutions that the Zambians crafted and authored for themselves are implemented to an extent that the fundamental rights and freedoms are protected. If indeed the courts rose to the occasion, we will not see the injustices that we see today. I want to encourage our men and women in the judiciary to rise to the occasion and to regard themselves as coordinate partners with the executive and not look at themselves as subordinates. And it's only through that that they will be able to ensure that they implement the provisions of our constitution and indeed, improve the lives of the Zambian people today. Countrymen and the women, I want to briefly talk about what Honorable Kampyongo talked about concerning the comments by the police IG. It's a source of concern, and I think we cannot proceed that way. We therefore call upon the Inspector General of Police to resign. He should resign for the comments that he has made against his fellow officers, calling his fellow officers junkies. Certainly, we cannot allow or sit back and watch the IG make such comments against fellow officers who were trained by this government at great cost. Patriots who served this country with patriotism. How then did UPND rise to power if these officers were incompetent? How is it that there was a very smooth transition between the past government and the UPND if these officers were not professional? So we need to look back and appreciate the services that these officers have provided to the nation and condemn the comments by Inspector General of Police. And I think there's only one thing and one thing only that he can do, and that is to resign so that new people are appointed in those leadership positions and begin to provide new leadership to our able men and women in uniform. Because it will be very difficult, based on the comments that Comrade IG Msamba is making. In 2026, when there's a change of government, it will become very difficult for the officers that will be there then to remain in service, because then Musamba would have declared them to be UPND. The next government will simply say, you are all UPND, we're bringing in new people. And that is not how we're supposed to run a nation. So this is a call from us as members of parliament, calling upon the IG to do one thing that is honorable, and that is to resign his position so that you people can be appointed and take up those positions. I think chairman of the party, these are the few comments that I had to make, and also just to encourage our Kitwe Mayor. We want to encourage her to remain strong. We know that she was attacked by His Excellency the President yesterday when he was visiting, something that is very, very unusual. I think that the President, being the father of the nation, must find a better way of engaging citizens, especially that you're talking about our mayor. This is a woman. There must be a better way of dealing with these elected officials. I know that many may not have known what happened on the floor of the House, but the mere fact that the President turned when Jim Senga made a comment, it was an attack on the female MP. I mean, the entire President turns and confronts you. What does that mean? That's intimidation. We want to advise His Excellency the President that if you have concerns, if at all you had concerns that you wanted to raise with the Kitwe Mayor, I think yours is a big office. You should have simply summoned them. If there were concerns with what Honorable Jim Senga said, as the chairman for Rigo earlier said, you should have just summoned the female MP. I've had the young MPs, they called upon me earlier yesterday. The new and young MPs, they are very worried. They are worried that they've left their careers in pursuit of their political career to be able to serve the Zambian people. What is happening to Jean right now is worrying them, is of concern to them, because clearly it means they will not be able to represent the young people out there for fear of being punished, for fear of being attacked. As if that was not enough, Then the mayor of Quito is also attacked.
Another female.
Another female. You know that we have come on the floor of the House to appeal to President Daga Ndejje that whenever he's making appointments, he must do so in line with Article 259(2). We have very few women in leadership positions. Now, the few that have garnered courage and have been elected to this position are the same ones that are being intimidated by the head of state. Our appeal to the head of state is that please, sir, find time to engage citizens. Create time to engage citizens, either directly or indirectly. Attacking citizens publicly, female leaders publicly is something that we should all condemn. I thought I should mention that, Chair, so that our Lady Mayor in Quito should know that we stand with her. She should continue representing the Zambian people, just like we stand with Honorable Jean Chisenga, our female MP from Ambilima. We stand with you. We stand with you, and a clarion call from Honorable Chisenga is that for all of you, the youths and the young ladies, stand with Honorable Chisenga, so that tomorrow, when it's your turn, all the other youths and women alike will stand with you, to fight these dictatorial tendencies that we are seeing from the UPND. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Hon Mundubile. He's been our last speaker this afternoon. Unless we have any questions from the press. If there are no questions, then I want to thank all the viewers and the listeners that tuned in to this press conference, and you, the press, and of course to our leadership for the time to speak to the nation through this press conference. We have come to the end. Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, J Cool, and turn on the notification bell, cause I'm gonna see you in the next video.